Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the fourth annual State of Bellevue College Breakfast for our President Circle and corporate partners. I'm Rebecca Chago, Interim Vice President of Institutional Advancement and Executive Director of the Bellevue College Foundation. We pause to acknowledge that Bellevue College resides on the traditional land of the Coast Salish peoples that includes, but is not limited to, the Snoqualmie, Suquamish, Muckleshoot, and Tulalip peoples, both past and present. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. We remember their connection to the region and recognize their suffering due to systemic oppression. We commit to using our education and agency to acknowledge injustice and to work to make systemic change in support of Indigenous rights, including federal recognition of the Duwamish. A little housekeeping before we get started. Note that this event is being recorded. If you would like to use subtitles today, click on the CC button on your toolbar. Once you've selected that, you have the option to show subtitles. At the end of today's presentation by Interim President Locke, we will open the room to questions and answers. On the toolbar, you will find a Q&A button. At any time during this presentation, feel free to add a question to be answered. We're honored to host you today. I'm glad we were able to gather together, even if it is virtual, and hear from Interim President Locke. I want to take a moment to just formally thank you. It's thanks to your investments in the Bellevue College Foundation that we were able to not only reach, but surpass our contributed revenue goal for this past year. That means we were able to increase our scholarships awards. So more than $490,000 were presented to 287 students. We were also able to award mini grants to 8 innovative projects across campus. These projects would have gone unfunded otherwise, such as a new post-graduation support training program for students with barriers to employment, and the production of new videos for the Center for High School Programs. These videos will help students as they explore various career and educational pathways available at Bellevue College. Thanks to your generosity, in addition to our annual operating support, we have increased the corpus of our endowment nearly 10%. These funds will benefit our students for many years to come. Today, I have the privilege of sharing details with you about a new collaboration with Amazon that will provide more opportunities for our students to earn Amazon Web Services certification and have greater access to internships and employment with AWS clients. In addition, Amazon has contributed $100,000 in funding for scholarship and emergency student aid. This collaboration builds on great support that Amazon has provided through the years. They have helped with curriculum support, providing AWS credits for our Bachelor's of Computer Science, our Institute of Business and Information Technology, and continuing education programs, participating in our career fairs for many years, as well as many Amazon employees who have donated their time in support of our students' success. Thank you once again to Amazon. We look forward to building this collaboration even more and to better serve our students and community. And thanks again to all of you. We simply could not do it without you. Donors like you make all of this possible. Before we hear from Interim President Locke, it's my honor to introduce BC Foundation President Lisa Brock. Lisa?
Thank you, Rebecca, and welcome everyone. And it was so inspiring to hear all the great work that has been accomplished over the year by the foundation. As Rebecca said, I'm Lisa Brock. I'm the president of the Bellevue College Foundation, and I really want to thank you for being here this morning. We all have busy schedules and lives. We're navigating a difficult year and pandemic, and that you have taken some time out of your busy day to hear about what's going on at Bellevue College. We're extremely grateful for. We're grateful for your support, and you're truly appreciated. And with that, I will turn it over to Interim President Locke for the State of Bellevue College address.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa and Rebecca. Good morning, and thanks for joining us for this 2021 State of BC. I really appreciate all the work that all of you are doing, and really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to support Bellevue College. And thank you for providing educational opportunities to members of our community. It's always important to connect, but even more so when so many of us are still operating remotely. When we gathered virtually last year, I don't think any of us could have imagined that this pandemic would have lasted this long. And just when things were starting to look up at the beginning of the summer with COVID-19 on the decline, the Delta variant hit, forcing Bellevue College and like so many other businesses and organizations to change our plans to bring more people back this fall. But I'm here to tell you that I've never seen the spirit of our entire community so strong. And I'm really so proud of all the ways we've come together in new and remarkable ways. All of us, I think, are going to have to learn, or actually are going to have to lean into that community spirit to hold steady our mission, build on our successes, and increase our capacity for change. Last year, I spoke on three of the biggest challenges facing the college at the time: the budget, systemic racism, and student success. And so today I'd like to just briefly report on our progress. And then I'll discuss some new initiatives on the immediate horizon and just how we're also beginning to envision the state of the future. Back a year ago, let's talk about the budget. As you recall, there was a tremendous uncertainty about how the pandemic would impact enrollment, as well as looming state funding cuts for higher education. And like so many of the other colleges, we were bracing for really a huge economic turbulence. But I think we really fared much better than the other colleges, than our peers. Across the state, community, and technical college system, enrollment dropped on average 11%, and some institutions experienced as much as a 15 to 20% drop in enrollments. Bellevue College's enrollment only declined by 1%, the least of any of the colleges. And I think we can attribute that success to a number of factors. The stellar reputation of Bellevue College as an institution that offers high quality, affordable education. Our diverse portfolio of programs which appeal to different segments of our community. So while we saw a loss of international students, that was offset by gains in Running Start, workforce education, and our bachelor's programs. With respect to Running Start, the fact that we were a quick pivot to remote learning, I think offered a very competitive, appealing choice to high school students who would be taking their classes remotely anyway. I mean, if you're going to take an online course at Bellevue or Issaquah high schools, you might as well take your courses online at Bellevue College and essentially for free and get both high school and college credit simultaneously. And we were nimble with our digital marketing and communication efforts to make sure that Bellevue College was at the top of people's minds. And with the federal CARES Act money, we not only dispersed extra funds to students impacted by the pandemic, whether for housing, whether for food, or even grants so that they could have access to high-speed internet. But we used part of that to improve our online courses. And that's an investment that will continue to yield benefits far into the future. At the same time, we didn't shy away from making tough choices, having tough conversations about tightening our budget. In order to make those decisions as equitable and as fair as possible, we convened a large budget stakeholders group or committee with interdepartmental leaders from across the campus in all sectors, from grounds to food service, to our classified, our exempt, as well as our faculty. And we communicated our proposed budget cuts clearly to the campus, and we held town hall meetings to get even more feedback on the process. Because we knew that we couldn't take last year's success for granted, and that the pandemic would continue to have unexpected impacts. Quite frankly, we're also seeing some of those impacts this fall with an enrollment drop of about 7%, primarily due to running start enrollments returning to their historical levels. I mean, those high school students, many of whom came to us because both their high school and we were online. And like I said, if you're going to be online, why not get high school and college credit simultaneously and virtually for free? Well, many of those running start students wanted to go back to their high schools to be involved in extracurricular activities or simply to be with their classmates. And of course, we had a slower than expected recovery in international students. As a result, we're requiring even greater fiscal discipline, beginning with program chairs and deans to ensure that we have the optimal class sizes for our winter and spring quarters. We're also tasking the president's cabinet to reduce spending, to find efficiencies across all departments. Fortunately, we have higher than expected savings from the last 2 years that we can use to help cover the expenditures that have already been incurred during both the summer and the current fall quarter. But we're going to continue to monitor our spending and our enrollment very closely, plan the best we can, and adapt quickly during these very unprecedented times. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about our efforts toward increasing equity so that all of our students can achieve their academic goals. This can't be just something to mouth without putting the time and resources into making it a reality. And to that end, Bellevue College has launched on our campus 2 national award-winning programs. The first is the Puente program to support Latinx students in reaching their academic and leadership potential. And the second is the Umoja Scholars Program to provide a supportive learning environment and enhance the educational experience of Black, African American, and other students. And we've also added staff to our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and we've hired 2 new tenure track positions to our Cultural and Ethnic Studies program. Other student success initiatives will also help these students of color, which really brings me to the work on that broader front. This year, we're finally operationalizing our Guided Pathways initiative, which was launched a few years ago, and which is aimed at greater student success across our entire student population. We're restructuring information for students based on their interest, with clear guidance on the degrees they can pursue, as well as the classes they'll need to take, and possible careers after graduation. Because not every student who enrolls in college comes prepared with this information, especially first-generation students. And with more entry-level workers looking for stable, high-paying careers, students who are juggling both work and family, we need to realign our programs and the schedule of our classes to really meet their needs. This is critical not just for their success, but really for the future of our community. And right now, the news cycle is filled with stories about how the biggest challenge in meeting healthcare needs is due to COVID-19 isn't a lack of facility space, but really a staffing shortage. So we really can't afford to lose time in preparing students with the skills and education they need to fill essential workforce positions in healthcare and, quite frankly, other local industries. Now I'd like to talk briefly about the near term and the future of Bellevue College, and then we'll take your questions. Sometimes in a crisis, our first tendency is to hunker down and be cautious about setting goals for the future. But our rapidly changing world has demonstrated that change itself is now the new normal. At Bellevue College, we're embracing that change and finding new ways to move forward together. This year, we're opening up more in-person classes. We've also taken the very strong and necessary steps of requiring vaccinations for all faculty, staff, and students, just to maintain a safe and healthy campus. And of course, that has impacts on the broader community as well. We'll be completely changing every single business process at the college from timesheet submissions to class registrations to disbursements of financial aid, with the implementation of what we call CTC Link, which replaces the 35-year-old legacy software system that's used by the entire state community and technical college system. The various groups of colleges are making that transition in groups over time, but we're starting ours just within a couple of weeks. This is a huge technological undertaking and has required every single department to be involved in the process. And during this transition period, many of our processes will be shut down for about a month and a half. We just opened our new Student Success Center, a beautiful and very spacious building which will house all of the student support services under one roof, from admissions, financial aid, tutoring, and advising. And in the last legislative session, we were successful in receiving $34 million for a new 52,000 square foot building. It's going to be called the Center for Interdisciplinary Learning and Innovation, which will house media arts, computer sciences, robotics, engineering, and really help foster a collaborative learning environment between all these different disciplines. So what does the longer term future of BC look like? Well, first, I think we have to recognize that the normal we were used to before the pandemic might never return. And that's not entirely a bad thing. As we look to the future, we have to consider what we'd like to maintain and be open to new ways of educating and supporting our students, as well as engaging our employees. I think a lot of us have realized that telecommuting is really now going to be part of the future, much more than people ever talked about, especially with the ability to do work remotely online and to have meetings on Zoom or Teams. It's also true that we have students who prefer and benefit from in-person instruction. But for those who are juggling work and family, and about 40% of our students work full or part-time, and about 20% have families, online instruction has offered new and greater opportunities to earn a degree that will advance their careers. Students also have more options for online education than ever before. You know, they don't have to take that hybrid or online course from Bellevue College. They can easily take courses from the many colleges throughout our region, and even those out of state that you see touting their programs on cable television and the internet, and talking about their low tuition. As our competition grows, Bellevue College must meet the needs and desires of our students and the community, and we have to do so in a value-added method. And so let me just say that your continued partnership is critical as we envision and embark on our new normal and our ever-changing future. Your expertise, your input, your support, your insights are very much appreciated. In fact, they're essential. They're essential in helping us move to the future, to respond to the needs of our students and the community and the workforce, and as well as just simply strengthening our college. So let me just close by thanking all of you for joining us today, and for all you have done and will continue to do for Bellevue College. So with that, I'll stop and turn it back to Rebecca and take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Governor Locke. For anyone who has questions for Governor Locke, please put them in the Q&A section, which is on your toolbar at the bottom. There's two little dialog boxes that say Q&A. Just type your questions in there, and we've got a couple already. So from Marcia, she asks, there are proposals for universal free community college. How do you see this proposal, especially as to do with budget implications, class size, and attrition?
Well, I think it would be fantastic to have the proposal for free community college tuition passed throughout the country. You know, I remember when I was governor, we were talking about the history of K through 12 education in the state. And the state of Washington was actually one of the leaders in the nation in moving to free, compulsory, but free education between 9th and 12th grade. Many decades ago, before most of us were ever born, state education only went to the 9th grade. And it was really felt that we needed to really prepare people. We needed to have education, our public schools going all the way up to the 12th grade. I think now people are realizing that virtually every skill, every job requires some sort of post-high school education and at least 2 years of community or technical college. The details are still being worked out in the Congress, and it's going to require some contribution by the states. The difficulty is that some states are already offering substantial financial aid or almost free tuition for the 2-year college programs, whether they're called junior colleges or community technical colleges. And so the big debate is, how do you recognize that some states have already been doing a lot? Should they be penalized if you simply provide all assistance to the states who have not been doing very much before? So I think it's going to be some sort of partnership or match program between the states and the federal government, recognizing and in some ways taking into account the extraordinary efforts that many states, including the state of Washington, have already provided. For instance, we in the state of Washington have relatively low cost community college tuition compared to many other states. And second of all, we offer very substantial financial aid for students of working middle class families. And so how does the federal government recognize that contribution? But I think it certainly will encourage more people to attend our community technical colleges, and especially students who are already working, people who are in their 30s, late 20s, or even in their 40s, wanting to change their jobs. And I think the pandemic has demonstrated to people that constant education is necessary for job security and well-being of one's families. People are seeing that many industries are changing so quickly, or some industries are not as predictable or as stable. And so many people want additional education to change careers or simply upgrade their skills so that they're less likely to be impacted in times of any future recession.
Thank you. We have another question. What percentage of classes are offered online, and how do you anticipate that changing in the coming quarters?
Well, I think about 25 to 30% of our courses right now are either offered completely on campus or a hybrid where they come to campus a few days or a day or two, and the rest is done online. Even before the pandemic, about 30% of our courses were almost completely online, asynchronous, as we call them, where they were pre-prepared and you could take them at any time of the day and any hour of the day, but you still had opportunities for interaction and advising with the faculty on an appointment basis. So we think that the new normal will have more than 30% of courses online. This coming winter, we're hoping to at least be 50% back on the ground. And then we'd hope to be back to full normality in the spring, of course, knowing that new normal might include a much more hybrid courses.
Great. Jim asks, if you had to point to one priority that you feel must be accomplished in 2022, what would that priority be?
Oh, obviously trying to get back to that new normal, offering predictability to our students, both our current students, but also future students, whether they're running start students or students looking to sign up for a career enhancing education. The other thing I think that we really need to focus on is ensuring and elevating the quality of our online instruction. Because almost 30% of our courses previously were entirely online, we have a lot of faculty who have really done a terrific job of best practices, of making their courses absolutely engaging and stimulating. But I think that while the rest of the college pivoted very quickly, our faculty would be among the first to admit that it wasn't all even. The quality wasn't consistent all the way across. And we've also heard feedback from some of our students about their disappointments with some of the quality of our online programs or just technology hiccups. So I think that knowing that online education will be a greater part of every institution's future, it's incumbent upon us to really look at best practices, to really train and work with all the faculty in templates, as well as just helping them plan to deliver how they deliver their courses online. That's part of the value added that I talked about earlier in terms of differentiating Bellevue College from, some of the colleges that are being advertised on the internet, programs like, what is it, Southern New Hampshire University or Phoenix University and others. How do we stand out? What type of a value proposition do we really offer that combines both the best of online education, but also the interaction with other students and faculty?
Great. Meredith asks, can you update us on efforts from BC to further diversify its administration and faculty, including adjuncts, to mirror BC's student body?
Well, that is a huge priority for us. And I can tell you that, for instance, we just announced the hiring of about 8 tenure track faculty. And it's a really exciting group and of incredible diversity, ethnic and racial diversity, but equally important of life experiences, some coming from other countries, and most of them from other institutions across the United States. And so we're really, really excited about that diversity of our new faculty who will be on a tenure track. The legislature also this past session provided funds for the entire state system to convert more or promote more of the adjunct part-time faculty into full-time positions. And we reached a collective bargaining agreement with our faculty union just a week or so ago. And of 40% of those new positions must go to current faculty. The legislature gave us this amount of money to basically funds to hire more faculty. They didn't give us the full amount of faculty salary money. They gave us the differential between what a typical adjunct or part-time faculty makes and what it would cost for a full-time faculty. So that money is called the conversion money. And with those positions, Bellevue College was just told that we'll be getting funding so that we can have 12 of these faculty conversions. And the agreement with the labor agreement with our union is that 40% of those must go to and be used for conversion of 40% of our current, 40% of those positions must be filled with current adjunct part-time faculty.
Here we have, can you talk a little bit about the new building?
Well, in fact, it was just announced, I think, in the Daily Journal of Commerce that Clark Construction and I can't remember the name of the architectural firm, LMN, have been selected to do that. They're going to be starting construction, engineering. Well, it's pre-designed, and so they're starting the process now, and we hope to have it completed in a year and a half, 20 months. It's going to be, as I said, 52,000 square feet. It's going to bring a whole bunch of our technical kind of science, engineering, robotics disciplines together, as well as offering more space for office space for our faculty. So we're really excited about that building.
All right. What percentage of students, faculty, and staff have left the college due to the vaccine mandate?
We've not had any that I'm aware of in terms of our faculty or staff. Virtually everybody has filled out the attestation forms. And I think only about less than 10% of our employees have asked for either a religious or medical exemption. And students still have about another month to provide the attestation certifying that they've either been vaccinated or they are requesting a religious and or medical exemption.
Great. From Judith, Governor Locke, you've been a 100% online president since. How do you encourage or build a sense of community in this world of Zoom land? How do you create partnerships across the campus and in the community?
Well, I think we have to try to reach out to and have conversations with as many of our stakeholders as possible on and off campus, our students, our faculty, our staff. I have regular so-called office hours where people can simply sign up and come and chat with me at any time via Zoom or Teams. I've already actually been on campus and talked with some of our students on the first day of class, hanging out in the cafeteria, getting a cup of coffee or a pastry, and just chatting with our students. And as I said, about 30% of our classes now are back on campus. And so I hope to be walking around and sitting in on some of these classes and just seeing how people are. But I'm really looking forward to the day in which we can really say that we are at our new normal.
Great. David asks, how can Bellevue College best position itself for the changing landscape for post-secondary education beyond remote learning? Are there specific areas of growth that we need to focus on, and how can we assure funding for those growth areas beyond tuition increases?
I think the big challenge for all of our technical colleges and quite frankly for society is how do we continue to provide ongoing education, upgrading of skills for people while they are working, and not necessarily in the traditional format that colleges now provide of courses that are a quarter long or a year long. We already have certificate programs, but how do we make some of those certificate programs that are now a quarter long more intensive, much shorter in duration? I think a lot of employers and businesses want their employees to upgrade their skills, but they don't want them gone for a few hours every week for a whole year or a quarter. Many of them would like very intensive, even 30, 40 hours a week, but conducted over, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks, or even 2 weeks. How do we ensure that people who obtain these certificates, and these certificates are designed with the private sector so that people getting these skills are in fact getting the training that's needed by industry sectors. So those with the certificates can say to their employees that they meet the so-called good housekeeping seal of approval required by their employers or a particular industry sector. But how do we make sure that those certificates can later on be acknowledged if people want to actually get a degree? Let's say cybersecurity, for example. We offer very specialized, targeted training in cybersecurity, and people can get a certificate in that. And those certificates in the curriculum were put together with the advice and the input of people in the industry. But now that a person has a certificate, suppose that person wants to get an actual degree in computer science or actual cybersecurity. How can we make sure that certificates offered throughout the college system can be recognized if a person then wants to go on for more advanced training? I think those are some of the things, the challenges facing our community technical colleges, because we really need to be figuring out a way in working with the private sector, employers in general, it could be nonprofit employers or governments, in making sure that we can offer targeted courses that meet the needs of both the employees and the employer. And then how can these certificate programs be transferable, acknowledged, and used when people want to go on for advanced degrees?
Thank you. From Neil, we have a question. Do you have plans for more four-year degree offerings at Bellevue College?
Yes, we're looking at and are applying to the state board for permission to offer some more four-year degree programs. And I also think that the state, for instance, I was just talking about cybersecurity. I know that the governor's office is going to be promoting funding for and allowance or permission for the community technical colleges to offer bachelor's degrees in technology, especially as it relates to cyber.
All right. With the nursing shortage, what role can Bellevue College play in helping our community?
I've actually been discussing some of this with Lisa, excuse me. Lisa Brock, your foundation chair, who works at Overlake and works in personnel, human resources. It's amazing. How is it that Bellevue College is turning away students who want to enter into our nursing program, and yet we hear about the huge nursing shortage across the state? It's really a problem that we need to sort out with, for instance, the Nursing Commission, which limits the enrollments of nurses in all of the colleges across the state, from the four-year schools to the two-year schools, public and private, as well as the hospitals, because in order to ultimately accept more students in the nursing program, there have to be eventually clinical placements. And there's a huge bottleneck in the ability of any college, any institution to place their students for these clinical placements. If the hospitals are not willing to entertain and take our students, then the Nursing Commission will not allow higher increased enrollments in nursing programs. So we really need a real strong partnership with the hospitals and healthcare providers in opening up clinical placements. And that's very difficult. It's not easy. You need to have supervising faculty. You need to have supervising staff within the hospital setting who might be pulled away from some of their normal duties to oversee these students. And then we have to have the faculty that can also advise them in the hospital as well. So it's really going to require a huge collaboration between the Nursing Commission, our hospitals, as well as our community and technical colleges. And that conversation has already started. There's been some hearings, some work sessions among legislators, and the governor's office has begun to look into this issue to see how they can be helpful in bringing all the parties together.
All right. What infrastructure and guidelines that Bellevue College put in place to support students through the pandemic do you see continuing through the future?
Well, we've used some of our, so many of our programs have come together from the foundation, support from the foundation, extra financial assistance offered by the foundation for students who don't qualify for some of the federal programs that were initiated during the pandemic, to the private sector offered discounts in terms of high-speed internet so that the students could take classes remotely from home. Many of those programs expired, and so the college has tried to pick up and continue that type of subsidy for high-speed internet. We're also loaning out computers, up-to-date computers for our students, and our student union, our student activity fee, our student government has launched a program in which they're making funds available from student activity fees to provide computer loaners to our students. And we're also partnering with the United Way of King County, in which we have several $100,000 in grants that are available for housing and food assistance, as well as counseling for our students. So we have a whole variety of groups that are all combining to provide assistance. And many of these programs are ongoing programs that were up and running even before the pandemic, but certainly have accelerated, have intensified and with increased partnerships. So we're going to continue this. I think it's very, very important to recognize that the students attending Bellevue College can't do it with just financial aid. As I said, 40% of our students work full or part-time, 20% have families, and the formulas for financial aid don't cover everything and don't recognize the costs. And certainly during a pandemic, when people are out of work and unemployment insurance doesn't fully make up the lost wages, people need help. And I'm just really proud of, quite frankly, the support that all of you have provided to the foundation, which in turn has really been able to step up and fill the gap, as well as funding programs that are innovative on campus and rewarding innovation and creativity on campus. I think going forward, we're going to need that continued support.
All right, and a question from Marcia. What is the status of the permanent president search process? Where is the group on the process, and when do they expect to have a selection?
Well, because of the pandemic and the uncertainty of what the new normal would be, as well as the uncertainty over state funding, the Board of Trustees extended my contract for 2 years so that I will continue in this role until June of 2023, a year and a half from now. The trustees are looking, I think, to start the search process next fall sometime, and hope to have a new president announced and on board for June of 23.
With the college's emphasis on technology, business, and healthcare, what are Bellevue College's plans to institutionalize environmental science, environmental politics, and climate change education, as well as be a community advocate for sustainable practices?
Well, we've been involving our faculty, who are very focused on this issue and very active on sustainability. We had them make a presentation to the entire campus faculty and staff during our opening days, so-called mini retreat. And we're actually looking at applying for some grants from the state that would enable us to kind of infuse sustainability and climate issues into the entire curriculum, whether it's whether you're teaching English or you're teaching political science or history. How can we infuse aspects of sustainability and climate justice into the curriculum? Because quite frankly, climate change is here and impacting us, but it's also impacting different communities in disparate ways. And people need to be aware of that, and need to be aware of the disruptive nature of climate change throughout our entire society. And so just having really detailed discussions, understanding, awareness, but infusing that into all aspects of the curriculum is something that we very much support. And we've got some outstanding faculty who are helping lead the charge and helping other faculty members in other disciplines understand how how you can teach English or political science or history and incorporate issues of sustainability without disrupting your regular curriculum.
As governor and a resident of the East Side, you are familiar with Bellevue College. In the past year, what was the biggest surprise you learned?
First of all, we take students from throughout the entire region, even as far as Tacoma. We have a lot of students that are actually taking courses from us completely online from outside the state of Washington. And some of our programs are ranked among the top 5 in America. And we serve so many, an incredibly diverse population, including those with developmental disabilities. And we are nationally recognized. So I think that's one big surprise, just how far-reaching our programs are, and how stellar and top rate our programs are. The second thing that really surprised me is how quickly we were able to pivot to an online mode. As I said, we can still do better in ensuring uniform and high quality instruction. I was also struck by the background of many of our faculty who work in other industries and who teach part-time, who have incredible passions and interest. So I guess it would be the diversity of the diversity of life experiences of our faculty.
All right. With the current labor shortages all throughout all industries, how does Bellevue College focus to try and address this?
Well, that's why I think that we need to have greater partnerships with the private sector to really understand where those future workforce demands will be, and as well as opportunities for our students. We talked about healthcare. We talked about the nursing shortage. I mean, that seems to me a no-brainer. We simply have to figure out a way in which we can educate more people for a nursing career, given the fact that we're turning away students and yet we have a shortage in the industry. That does not make sense. I mean, something is not right there. And so we need to bring the players together. And I've raised this issue with the governor's office. I've talked with some legislators and they've started working groups. And I've even chatted with some of the hospitals as to what they need in order to allow for more clinical placements. But we need to do this all across the board. Obviously, cyber is a growing issue of concern with all the hacking and the ransomware. Technology is obviously going to be a huge part of our future, whatever our occupation and profession will be. So I think those are some of the things that we simply have, and then we need to make sure that with existing employers, how do we help them upgrade the skills of their employees in a way that works for both the employer and the employee? How can we customize the training for various industry sectors? And as I indicated, many companies now want more focused, short-term, but intensive training sessions instead of spreading it out through the year or a whole academic quarter.
All right. If you were going to go back to school and take a class or degree at Bellevue College, what would you be interested in studying?
Ooh, I'd probably want to take more accounting, finance courses. I wish I could really understand international finance better. And now with this advent of cryptocurrencies, I think that's going to be a huge sea change and a huge disruption of our traditional financial markets and financial systems. But I have to tell you, I would love to take some courses that Bellevue College does not offer. I would really like to take welding courses. But that's we do not offer welding courses. That's for other colleges across the state or in the region. So.
Well, if you want to work with metal, we do have metal sculpture pouring.
Yes,
So,
I'm not artistic. I don't profess to have an artistic bone. I'm more. I've always wanted to learn welding. I've done a lot of sweating of copper pipes, and I do a lot of plumbing work, and I love working with my hands. I do a lot of construction and heavy construction around the house, and I completely tore off a whole deck, and then had to rebuild it all myself, and did a lot of I had a contractor dig put in the footings and put in some of these huge 20-foot high posts and humongous beams, horizontal beams, but I then put in all the joists, laid all the decking, and even installed all the railing, and had it all inspected. But I love that type of heavy plumbing, wiring, but I've always wanted to learn welding. Right. Don't know what I would ever do, but I always wanted to learn welding.
What do you see as the biggest challenge facing Bellevue College going forward?
I think we need to really figure out what type of courses we want to offer in the future. I mean, with a huge change of technology and whether we need to expand in healthcare, but also in technological fields, we have a really top-notch computer science program. Bellevue College was the first college in the state authorized to offer four-year degrees in computer science. Some of the legislature this past session has now authorized the other community technical colleges to also offer four-year degrees in computer science. And why? I mean, we know that is a very high demand course, and the University of Washington, which is a nationally recognized computer science program, is turning away students. And so a lot of the students that are not able to go to the University of Washington and get that four-year degree are coming to Bellevue College. There's a demand in Eastern Washington. There's a demand in Southwestern Washington. And so the community colleges are going to step up and provide that. So again, we have to recognize that we have competition. And how can we continue to serve people given this competition, not just from our other colleges in the state, but also, as I said, the Southern New Hampshire universities, the Phoenix universities of the world. We also need to think about what is our enrollment growth going to be over the next several years, and how do we plan both from a facility standpoint, also recognizing that maybe more courses will be offered in a hybrid mode or an online mode. So, what are our space requirements really, given our expected enrollment? So how can we serve hopefully a growing population, especially people who are working with the private sector, as well as high school students, the Running Start program. And then how are we going to pay for all of this? State funding does not cover everything. Tuition, we keep the tuition and then it's supplemented by state funding. That does not cover everything. So some of our programs generate, in fact, extra revenue to help pay for some of these programs that are not fully paid for either by tuition or by the state. So we need to really make sure that we can operate within our means, and that even if we're able to balance our budget this year, will we have a balanced budget 2 or 3 or 4 years from now as the trajectory, as the pattern continues. We're seeing a decline of enrollment in some of our populations, the typical high school age population, but we're seeing a growth in, and those are for our 2-year degrees, who then transfer on to, let's say, University of Washington or Western Washington University or even Stanford or something like that. But we're seeing an increase in bachelor's programs. Bachelor's programs are very expensive. We're seeing a decline in international students. International students have been a profit generating operation for us, and we use that extra income to offset, for instance, even community programs. Community programs like English as a second language for many of our immigrant populations that are coming to the East Side. The state does not even come close to reimbursing the cost of those programs, and tuition is capped by Olympia. And so it is a money-losing proposition for us, but it's a very important function and responsibility of all of our community technical colleges, whether it's offering GED type programs for students who never graduated from high school, who need that high school diploma even to come into our other programs. So we have a lot of programs that serve the community, which do not get even close to full reimbursement from either tuition or the state. And so how do we juggle all these programs, meeting the needs of the entire community of the East Side? We have to really figure out financial stability, and that is a huge challenge for us right now.
All right, related to that, slightly, Chu asked, Governor Locke, you mentioned earlier that your term has been extended until June of 2023. From now until June of 2023, what are your top 3 priorities and how can we support you?
Oh, well, financial stability is in trying to map out financial stability and making sure that, that the college will be in financial health when I leave. So that's very, very important. And a big key of that is enrollment, predictable enrollment. Now, as I said, we had a drop of 7% enrollment this fall. We had a big drop in the summer, although summer contributes very little, a relatively smaller portion of our overall enrollment, but we still had a decline in summer enrollment and a significant 7% drop in enrollment for fall quarter. So we're going to have to readjust winter quarter and spring. And now, why does lower enrollment make a difference? I mean, if, for instance, you were expecting 1,000 students and only 750 showed up, but you already hired and had classes established and announced for 1,000 students, and you hire and you're paying all the instructors for 1,000 students, but you only have 750 show up, well, you're in financial difficulty. So what you can't eliminate all those courses because people chose the courses based on the availability and the time that fit their schedules. But the following quarter, maybe you have to reduce the number of English 101 courses that you offer to the appropriate size that would handle 750 students. Now that has a financial impact because we're basically telling certain faculty members, we don't need you to teach some of these courses. We're reducing the number of courses because we only have 750 students, not 1,000 students. Well, that has a financial impact to those faculty members who have families that they are supporting. So we have to be very, very sensitive to this, but at the same time, we know that we cannot run a deficit. What are the trend lines next year and 2 years from now, if that enrollment stays at that whatever level that is? Trying to manage the finances of the college in a way that's sustainable, because even if we have surpluses from last year or even from the federal government, that's one-time money. And so if you're incurring a loss every year of, let's say, $3 million and you have only $6 million in reserves, that'll help you for 2 years. But what do you do in year 3? What do you do with that $3 million deficit then? So we need to anticipate all this and really try to put the college on sound financial footing. We have to operate like a business. We are not a business, but we can certainly take business principles in how we operate to make sure that we're providing predictable education. You don't want to offer courses and then cancel courses. That's not good for the students. You don't want to hire people and then let them go the next year. That's not predictable and sensitive to our employees. So we need to have predictability, financial predictability, and therefore predictability in our operations for both students and employees. But certainly you can help by spreading the word about Bellevue College. Running Start program, how it's virtually free. College education for high school juniors and seniors. They can take, they don't have to take all of their high school programs here. I had some nieces and nephews who took just a few courses at Bellevue College while still at their local high school. And that enabled them when they entered the University of Washington to have a head start and already have some credits under their belt. So ultimately their journey through the University of Washington was cheaper and faster. But we also have students that take their entire junior and high school years at Bellevue College so that when they graduate from Bellevue College, they graduate from Issaquah and Bellevue High School. At the same time, they get a 2-year degree at Bellevue College and can transfer to the University of Washington as a junior. I mean, that just shaved 2 years off their educational journey at the University of Washington or WSU or Western or Eastern or Central, wherever. And quite frankly, they can still participate in their extracurricular activities, still go to the football games and be part of the glee club or chess club at their local high school. So it's an incredible opportunity for high school students throughout the state of Washington. That's the Running Start program. And we're really proud of our Running Start program here at Bellevue College. But spread the word about our bachelor's program in computer science, our nursing programs, and even our healthcare management programs, which are offered. It's a 4-year degree, and it's completely asynchronous so that people can get the degree while working full-time or part-time. They can take the courses at their convenience, whether it's on a Saturday, Sunday at 11 o'clock at night or 1 a.m. in the morning.
Great. Can you speak to the adult basic ed program and ESL programs when these are so important for minority groups, including immigrants and single parents? Can you talk about the recent funding situation?
Yeah, that's an example of programs where the state and tuition do not even come close to covering our costs. It's a very popular program. It serves a very sizable population in our area on the east side. But we need to have financial controls. Over the last several years, the program has consistently overrun their budget, overspent their budget. And so the following year, the college would give them additional funds. They would then overspend again. The college the following year would give them even more money. They would then overspend yet again. And that has continued for almost 5 straight years. At the same time, the size of their classes have been going down. And the cost per student has been going up because of smaller class sizes, even adjusted for increasing enrollments. And so, whereas the rest of the college has really been trying to maintain what we consider an optimal level of class sizes, we cannot have a program that every year overspends their allocation, even when we give them every year extra money. So it's got to stop. It's not fair to the other programs because other programs then have to either cut back because they're having to, we don't have sufficient funds to fund to pay for every program. And so if one program is consistently losing money, then it's impacting other programs or the ability to expand other programs. So that's why this year we gave the program extra money, but we said you cannot overspend this higher level of budgeting. We've put them on notice. That means they have to be much more vigilant in scheduling of classes, making sure that the classes are full, that if the class was supposed to have theoretically 20 students and you only have 10 signing up for that particular class, then maybe you need to merge the two classes of 10, so you have one class of 20, and therefore you only need one instructor.
All right. Someone comes from out of the blue and hands you $10 million in cryptocurrency with no strings attached. What would you use it for?
Oh, I'd probably put it into wow. I'd probably put it into because that money can only last a certain period of time if you put it into ongoing operations. And then once that money runs out, how do you sustain that? I would probably put it into some one-time expenses, whether it's equipment, technology equipment that can benefit all of our students. You know, one of the new ways of educating students is using aspects of virtual reality. And so beefing up our classrooms and our technology, including virtual reality, can help in terms of even educating people in the healthcare sector and other programs. I'd also put it into our foundation, quite frankly, so that we have funds for scholarships and financial aid that can benefit students. And even, some of that money can also be used as rewards recognition for innovation and outstanding programs by our faculty and staff on campus. We need to figure out ways in which we can incentivize creativity and reward creativity and out-of-the-box thinking and approaches. So that's how I would like to use some unexpected receipt of funds, whether cryptocurrency or normal funds.
Great. All right. Now they're asking you to put your crystal ball on the table. So what do you see as a lasting impact of the economic turmoil and pandemic on higher education?
How education has to be, well, as I said before, we're going to be a lot more online. And I think it really has opened people's eyes to the notion of, quite frankly, lifelong learning. That I can take a course online, and it could be from an institution in New Hampshire or Spokane, that I have available to me now courses that I can take when I want to take them on a Saturday evening, or after the kids have gone down, after, after a long day of work and the kids have gone down, or we've given the kids a bath, and instead of turning on the television at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, I can actually take a course, and I can do it at my pace. And time's convenient to me. But the challenge will be, how can I interact with faculty? How can I have a chat with a professor or an instructor? I have a question. I need some help. How will colleges enable students from around the country or around the region to have class discussion? So maybe, I take part of this course on a Saturday morning or at 1 o'clock in the morning on, when I've got insomnia or something like that. But is there a time in which there's also class discussion? Maybe it's on a Thursday evening at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock. I can sign up for different types of class interactive discussion. And I think that part of the future of education, thanks to the pandemic, is work being available at different times of the day. I mean, the whole notion of flex time, of telecommuting, it's going to be telecommuting using Zoom or Teams. And using technology, if I'm just processing paper or doing payrolls or something like that for an institution, for the college, or let's say for a private employer, I can maybe just do it at home. The company sets up the equipment, and I can do everything from home. And I, once in a while, check in with supervisors, and maybe there's a team meeting in a physical location where we all come together. But the remote work is going to be more of the new norm as well. I mean, let's look at it. When I make a flight reservation on Alaska Airlines, I can either do it online, or sometimes I prefer, I have a specific question, and I call the 1-800 number, and I talk to a live customer representative, customer agent, and they'll say, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. And I always ask that person, so where did I reach you? Well, that person I reached the other day was in Phoenix, Arizona. And the time before that was in Boise, Idaho. There's no reason why some of our employees at the college, or any of your employees, might not be working from another city. This is actually good for rural economic development, creating jobs for people in rural parts of our state, which are oftentimes more economically depressed than the big cities. Certainly, cost of housing is cheaper, more affordable. And so I think that's going to be part of the new normal, both for education as well as for our employees, your employees.
All right, we've got another crystal ball question. How's the Bulldog basketball team going to do this year?
Oh, I have no idea. That is not something that I've really delved into, quite frankly.
All right. And then we have another one here. Where is the college at when it comes to amplify emergency programs for students, such as free housing for homeless students, emergencies and funds, etc.?
Well, again, that's why we have support from the foundation, funds from the foundation. We have special funds available from the Federal CARES Act money that's devoted only for student needs. And we have this incredible partnership with Seattle King County, or United Way of King County, in which we offer very specialized assistance, including housing assistance. And in fact, we're partnering and entering into an arrangement or a partnership with the city of Bellevue to provide housing assistance, emergency housing assistance.
All right, it looks like that's the end of the questions. So Governor Locke, thank you very much, and want to thank everyone in the audience for all of your support of the college and the foundation. I want to remind everyone that we are having a virtual donor and scholar event on November 4th. The information is in the chat. And once again, thank you, Governor Locke. Want to also just say again how thrilled we are that Amazon is expanding their collaboration with us. And again, we could not do the great work we do if it weren't for all of you. So thank you.
Now, thank you to all of you. Thanks for your support, your dedication, not just to Bellevue College, but to the community as a whole. We're so lucky to have all of you involved in our community and with Bellevue College. Our students, thank you. Our faculty and staff, thank you. The community thanks you.